Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. This is Bucket Ponds, and my name is Terry. I have another excellent jar aquarium tutorial for you today. I build a new jar tank every Friday, so please like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all of my current projects and everything that I upload. So we have another cylinder jar here. This is the last one. I have 3 of these altogether. And in this project, we're using lava rock. That's L-A-V-A, lava rock. And I love this stuff. It's great in a jar aquarium, and it provides excellent surface area for beneficial bacteria. Now, in this project, I am testing some locally sourced sand. This is Georgia clay and sand mixed together. It has a very silt-like consistency, and it should provide some interesting effects on the aquarium. If all goes well, I will most likely be using this sand mixture in all of my future projects. For the plants in this jar, I am using some small grass plants that I harvested from a local ditch. Where I live, here in Georgia, ditches run alongside all the roads, and they help with drainage. They are basically vernal pools, temporary ponds. So I'm pretty confident that this grass can live in an aquatic environment. But I don't know for sure, and that's why we're testing it today. It's important to remember that all of my jar aquariums, they are all experiments, and we learn a little something from each tank. So in this one, we're testing some sand and some new plants, and we're hoping for the best. If the plants do wilt and die, we will of course replace them in an update video with some macroalgae or something like that. But starting things off here, I am using the rock to build up a little height in the back of the tank. I want to set those grass plants up above the bottom a little bit. And I'm basically using the stone to achieve that goal. We add a little sand just to get things started, and now we're going to plant our grass plants. I'm not going to pack this sand down around them, and I'm not going to plant them too heavily in here. I have 2 grass plants, but my goal is to see the sand kind of wash out and cover the roots and seep down into the lower portions of the container here. This should give these grass plants a good chance to survive. They may even reach up out of the tank and grow as an emergent plant. I really don't know. Now, we could do research on these grass plants and figure out what they are and where they will grow and things like that. But instead, I'm going to use them here. I'm going to test them out, and I'm just going off where I found them growing. And yeah, we're going to see what happens. Most of my best plants came from locally sourced places, and just collecting them, wild plants, and bringing them home and getting them to grow. It's a lot of fun. So I hope that these grass plants will survive and join the plant collection. But if they don't, I'm sure our creatures will tear them to pieces. We have quite a few detritivores in my tanks, and a detritivore is basically an animal that eats dirt or waste, plant matter, wilted leaves, and things like that. So yeah, I love my detritivores, and we shouldn't have any problems if those grass plants do fail. So we're still in the setup phase, but I'm already enjoying this aquarium. I think it looks nice, and it should be a great addition to our plant shelf. So now I'm going to add water to this tank. For this project, I am using about 50-50, half fresh water and half water from one of my aquariums, specifically my farm tank, my farm aquarium. The water from there is very, very fertile, and it's also loaded with tons of tiny creatures. My farm tank is very well populated. So adding this dirty water will essentially kickstart the nitrogen process in the tank here. And yeah, it'll accelerate the rate at which life will take hold and will grow in here. We won't have to wait for the tank to cycle. We can just add our pets right away, and yeah, start the project on the right foot. So here she is about, 2 hours after setup. We're still pretty cloudy inside, but that's okay. I will have to wash and rinse this sand more thoroughly next time, but I assure you it will clear up very soon. And just as a backup, we have a little bladderwort up here, some duckweed, some lemna minor, along with some water meal and some Florida mud midget. The Florida mud midget, they are very interesting little duckweed plants, and it's very rare in the aquarium hobby, so I like to show it off a little bit. Those are the small spiky plants that you might see there, the little X's. That's Florida mud midget, and it is my favorite type of duckweed. I love it. It's important to maintain some duckweed in your jar aquarium. It helps in a few different ways. But the duckweed itself will provide a habitat for other creatures to live amongst those plants that float, while also filtering the water and reducing evaporation. Evaporation is a big deal in these tanks. Once you have 20 or 30 jar aquariums, you will not want to refill them all the time. It becomes a chore. So the duckweed does help to reduce evaporation, while also encouraging other creatures to live in your jar. Now on that note, I am also adding a lid. I have a small dollar store Tupperware container here, and it's meant for snacks and things like that. But I've drilled a few holes in the bottom, and it turns out that this will fit perfectly on top of the jar. Now the lid will also help to reduce evaporation, while providing humidity and swamp-like conditions inside of the aquarium. The duckweed will benefit from the condensation, the little raindrops as they fall down to hit the surface. And of course, will also prevent mosquitoes and anything like that from flying into the tank and laying eggs. The lid serves a dual purpose of protecting the bladder snails. Your bladder snails will occasionally try to climb out of the jar, so a lid will help to keep them safe and keep them contained inside. So far we have made quite a few jar aquariums, and we've learned a lot. Not counting the dozens of them that I've made off screen. But here I wanted to show you the duckweed. I wanted to verify and make sure that it's in here. This is what we're starting with, a very small amount of duckweed. Eventually, when I show an update video, the whole top should be covered with duckweed plants, and I look forward to showing that to you. So this is just a few hours after setup, and the tank looks pretty good. It's still cloudy inside, but it will settle. Those bubbles are from air bubbles escaping from the rocks and from the roots of the plants. It's not photosynthesis, not yet anyway. But I do see some ostracods in here, just a few of them, and that's pretty good to start with. And apparently we captured some kind of a root tuber that came in with those grass plants. It might be from them, it might be from rattlesnake weed, I can't tell yet. But we're going to leave it in there. It might grow, it might not, either way. But I do notice that the grass plants are immediately loaded with bladder snails. So that's pretty cool. They are cleaning all the debris off of those leaves. And, a lot of people, they get upset when they see bladder snails in their aquarium. But I can assure you that bladder snails will not eat your plants. They will not eat any live plant. They are very friendly, and if anything, they will help your tank out. So please don't squish them, and don't freak out if you see a couple bladder snails in your aquarium. They're great pets. They're a lot of fun to watch, and they're very active. They're always scraping algae. They're always cleaning up debris, and all the time they're producing fertilizers for your plants. So they're excellent little bio machines, and they're a lot of fun to have as pets. I highly suggest bladder snails for a jar aquarium. They're just the right size to do really well in something that's about a half gallon. And you can raise quite a few in a small jar. Mystery snails and other creatures, apple snails and things like that, they are fun, but they get way too big to live in these jars, and I would never put a large animal inside of a small confined space. It just does not seem right. But our main goal here is to test out the grass and the sand. We want to see if the grass will grow underwater, and we want to see if our animals, if our snails and ostracods can live with the sand, and if it's, healthy for them. But so far it looks pretty good. We have a ton of active snails in here, and they're very active and pretty healthy looking. We did start the tank with 50% water from their own aquarium, from the tank where these snails came from, so the conditions shouldn't have been too much of a shock for them. Sometimes when you transplant adult snails, the water conditions can be very different, and it can stun them, it can shock them. So starting with half of their aquarium water and half fresh water seems to have really encouraged them to do well. See, we are learning a little something in every one of these tanks that we build. We're getting better at it every day, and that's pretty cool. A lot of people think that you need to spend like tons of money and this elitist attitude in the aquarium industry. Oh, you have to have expensive tropical fish, and they have to be really hard to breed, or it's no fun. I disagree with all of that. I spend very little on these tanks, and I tend to raise pets that are very easy to breed. And just because they're not some $1,000 arowana or something like that, it doesn't mean that they're any less valuable or less entertaining to watch and enjoy. If you know me, I love my bladder snails, and I'm always happy to see them. I love their weird, quirky attitudes when they start cruising around, and let's be honest, they only really have two ideas. It's eat and breed, and sometimes they do those together, so that's pretty cool. There's some ostracods up here. This is the duckweed layer, and you can get a good look at some of the Florida mud midget in here. We already have some bladder snails, cruising around, checking out the duckweed. They won't eat any live plants, but they will eat anything that wilts or dies. And generally, as they move through the plants, they are helping to agitate the duckweed, and they're helping it to grow and replicate. Duckweed relies on agitation. Something has to shake it up a little bit to help it split and form new plants. So it's important to have some kind of a symbiotic relationship between the animals and plants in your tank. So I'm going to wait about 24 hours before I feed this tank. I feed all of the jar aquariums with a single slice of cucumber about once a week, and that seems to be enough food for the snails and ostracods and all the other creatures inside. The cucumbers sort of kickstart the ecosystem, and yeah, we maintain nice healthy jars using fresh food. So thank you for watching. I look forward to having an update for you on this tank in about a month or so, and I'll have a new video up next Friday with another jar aquarium. So this is Bucket Ponds. My name is Terry. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'm happy to share it with you. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.